Namaste and welcome. Today it is my pleasure to introduce Geetha Sreedhar from the New England area. Geetha Sreedhar was a senior corporate leader in the financial services sector in the Boston area. She is the co-founder of an insurtech startup that was recently acquired. Geetha is also a board member of TIE, the Indus Entrepreneurs Group, which is a nonprofit organization with a mission to foster entrepreneurship. On her personal side, she is the mother of two beautiful daughters, one of whom is the member of the LGBTQ community. She just conducted the same-sex marriage for her daughter in Chicago, and she is here today to share some very wonderful experiences with us. Geetha, welcome to Lokvani. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Ranjani, for giving me this opportunity. Really.
Welcome. It's really a pleasure. So first, I want to ask congratulations. Having a daughter married is such a wonderful experience. So I'd like to know about that marriage and, a little bit, if you would like to share with our community what
Absolutely.
the whole event was about.
Yeah. So, being untraditional, but Sindhu was very, very traditional in the sense that she wanted a traditional Hindu Tamil wedding. And her fiance, Sarah, also, was in the same boat. So both of them wanted a traditional wedding along with a Western ceremony. And that's how, so we celebrated that recently over the Memorial Day weekend with 250 of our closest friends and relatives. The wedding itself was conducted by a Hindu priest from the Chicago temple. And he did such an incredible job. And it was blessed by my 85-year mother-in-law. And my 83-year-old mother was so excited to be part of the wedding. She danced through the 2 days of wedding. Both days she danced her heart away and celebrated with great joy. And it was also the guest of honor were our uncle and aunt, 85 years old uncle and aunt from India, who came and blessed the couple. So it was just so incredible. All my friends said that the love in the air was so palpable, because end of the day, the wedding was not about a same-sex wedding. It was just a regular wedding with two people in love, and the joy around the air was just incredible. And interestingly, in most of our Tamil weddings, we end up playing cards, right? So we danced until like Saturday and Sunday, both nights. People danced until like midnight, and after midnight was a card playing ceremony where until 2 a.m. both families came together, and everybody was together. And a lot of kids, a lot of parents brought their adult children and young children. So I have to say, it was just such a joyous occasion.
Yeah. That's the beautiful point you're bringing up, that whether it is whatever type of marriage, same sex or other, the joy of an Indian wedding is full. And I'm so glad to hear that the family was fully supportive, and your 85-year-old grandmother came up. And I think that is the beauty of the Indian family, that yes, perhaps, and I would love to ask you about that. I'm sure it wasn't very straightforward when Sindhu declared her that she was part of the LGBTQ community. I'd love to learn more about that. But as a Hindu, we know that, religiously or spiritually, it's a very natural and accepted things for us as a from our tradition. And in fact, I would like to read Sri Ravi Shankar's quote, which says, he's a great Hindu guru, and he says, homosexuality has never been considered a crime in the Hindu culture. In fact, Lord Ayyappa was born of Hari, Hara, Vishnu, and Shiva. It's not a crime in any smriti. Everyone has male and female elements. According to their dominance, tendencies show up and may change. Nobody should face discrimination because of their sexual preferences. That's what Sri Ravi Shankar says. Right. And I think in all anybody who is Hindu believes that. But from your own perspective, What was it like when you found out that, first of all, how did you find out? When did you find out?
Right,
And
right,
what were the, how did you proceed along those lines? So maybe I'll start at the beginning to ask you that question.
right. So I had an inkling when Sindhu was in college that maybe she is gay. But then after kind of the initial shock of that realization wore off, I tried to learn as much about it, right? I'm like a very methodical person. That's how I go about my life. So I'm like, okay, there's a problem, or we don't know, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Now let me try to find out more about it. And I didn't have to go too far because there were two people in my office right next to me,
Yeah.
sitting on both sides of my office. One was a gay woman, and she was very open about her wife.
Yeah.
And the other was a gay man, and he talked about his partner who was a physician. So in our office, it was pretty, common to talk about it. So I spent some time with Sandy and asked her, and she was 40 plus years old. So she had gone through this experience. And so she told me unequivocally, most important thing she said is, so being a gay or a lesbian is not a choice. It is who we are. So you have to accept it. Okay. So that kind of, I'm like, okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to not keep wondering if this is, what is it?
Yeah.
So, okay. And she said, it's really true. We've gone through it. I know so many people, and this is really how we are. Like, okay. And then she also said that I should not confront my daughter. I should just wait for her to tell me when she's ready, because she herself is going through her own discovery, and just be patient and be a loving mother. And so I tried to be as supportive of her as I could, and didn't question, and just let it be. And then the next thing she told me was, do not tell anyone else about it. She said, it is not your story. Don't even share it with your husband. It is her story. Sindhu will share when she's ready. So you just wait for it to unfold. And so it was hard, right? But I said, but all the things she said made a lot of sense, because we really, until they come and tell us, it's all still a hypothesis. It's all, we don't know for sure. So we really have to wait for the child to come, and we have to keep that open so they can have the confidence in us, right? So you're telling them whatever it is. So I would send her messages, Sindhu, no matter what, I'm here for you. I love you. Dad and I are here for you. Whatever it is, we are here. So I think that is important for them, so they have the confidence to come and tell you when the time is right for them.
Right.
But if you start pushing them, confronting them when they are not quite ready yet, it pushes them away, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest mistake sometimes people make, because they get so anxious and start that whole questioning them when they are not ready.
Yeah. And actually, that's a question I have for you. I mean, this is what people, and I obviously, it's not something that's familiar to people, but I do know that, it's just like people have different colors of skin or different, I don't know, eyebrow features. This is just sexuality it's not the same for everybody.
Right.
So it's just a feature that is different for everybody. But how did you how did you know? And more importantly, the child, how does he or she find out? Is it something that automatically occurs to them? This is a question that comes up, because people often think, you'd say it says it's in this American world, they just get confused. This is a comment that comes up often. And in fact, in our own school in Burlington, in the middle school, they have a Pride Day and things like that. Does that really make sense? And do people really know when they are very young? Anyway, I'd love to know your experience about that.
So I don't know about middle school. I personally do not know. I think for Sindhu, it's probably maybe towards high school. I just knew she was going through something.
Oh.
And then, sometimes with the hair, right there, you would just know. But I actually have another story to tell you on that. So I have another friend of mine from the South Asian background. And she said she was in middle school. And now she's in her 50s. Good, very wonderful friend of mine. She's married to her wife, and they have a child now. But again, her journey started her in middle school, she said. And she said in those days, I didn't know. I knew it was different. I felt it, but I didn't know about anything about it. So I had to go to the BBC library and read up on it because I felt I was different, you know?
Okay.
That's one person I've talked to and found out. And again, Sandy was the same thing. She's like, I just knew. And so I haven't really questioned my child on how she
Yeah, yeah,
knew,
yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't think that is fair
Yeah. Yeah.
question for any parent to ask their child if they tell you, I think. But then I think I kind of knew only because, just by observing, by seeing, you can sometimes sense as a mother. But as early as high school, I think it depends. So if both of them, both the women were telling me they knew
Yeah.
early on, and this person from the South Asian community, it was like, they were not even exposed to this whole, and she is almost 50. So you can imagine, like
Yeah.
40 years ago, right? 40 years ago, this was not even that common. So
Yeah.
when people say confusion, and, I did bring this question up about, are people confused, to one person, and they said, if you can be gay by seeing other people, then why are you not straight by seeing other people, right? Because there's more straight people, right? So if you
Exactly.
think just by seeing one gay person, I can become gay, then why don't you see hundreds and hundreds of,
What?
straight people? Why are you not straight?
Yes.
Is the response I got. And I thought that was a really good one, right?
Good one for sure. So what
Right?
you're saying is that you yourself were able to know that, first of all, your daughter knew that
Yeah.
it is, it was there, just like
Right.
I would say, I have a nose on my face. She knew, that she was. And another thing, I'm seeing the beautiful Bharatanatyam, photographs behind you. The rest of her life was, no different than anybody else. It seems like
Oh,
she went to school well, she, whatever, did her Bharatanatyam. Am I right? Everything else was like other people, this was
right.
just a feature of Sindhu. Would you say that?
Exactly. She's just a daughter. We love her, everything else. In college, she was actually, as she was discovering, so it was more college where,
Yeah.
she was going through, she was very active in the OSTEM, which is out in science and technology. She, for in colleges, and she was actually probably in 15, she started as a volunteer and worked her way up in 4 years to the VP of that organization, and she really helped build. So her whole mission was, I need to help others. And so she did a lot, because she saw how many families where the children were just outcast, right? Because you're gay, then you cannot come home, and just all the struggles. So she wanted to build a support system in college for other students. And so she was always there trying to, okay, I need to help others as she's going through her own
Such
journey
a
too, right?
such a
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
person. That's so good to know. So of course, again, what you're pointing out too is that it's not just in the Indian community, everywhere, if they are LGBTQ. So for the parents, it could be a struggle for anybody, right? With not just in the Indian community. Am I right about that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's because we don't talk about it, right? We want to hide it, right? We really don't. So I'll tell you the next step in our discovery, right? So it was, so when she came out, so when did she come out? So it was time for she graduated, she had a wonderful job. She's a chemical engineer, by the way, so she had a wonderful job. And then dad brings up the question, Sindhu, what's going on? When are you getting married?
Mm.
And then she's like, oh, dad, this is what? And then, of course, the shock, right? So now the dam is broken. I mean, her sister already knows, and I kind of had an inkling, but so now dad knows. So now here we are, all of us are facing this. It was
Yeah.
not easy, right? It was not easy. It had taken me a long time, but then now it was, dad had to digest this all in one moment. Um,
Did
and
did he feel cheated that you didn't tell him about this?
No,
No,
no.
no,
I
no.
think no. I think
Thank
no. I mean, I don't know. At that point, at that point, I'm not telling him that I already knew, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
so yeah, it was much later because
Yeah.
then I was like, once we're sitting down, like days after, so I could tell him all the things I had learned through the 4 years because
Yeah.
I'm like, I've already talked to people. This is and I'd be texting him, messaging him middle of the day. This is what people are, this is what I've gone through. I've talked to people because he doesn't have all the research yet, right? He's just dealing with it day one. And I have had this 4 years of trying to understand and brace myself for this day.
Yeah.
So it was good, I think. So at least one person is more prepared. And then, so he is like slowly trying to understand where she's coming from and others, because you know how this is not talked about in the Indian community, right? And we know so many people, right, Ranjani? I mean, you know, in the Boston area, our family, extended family and extended family, and not one gay person. We are like, why is that? Is this only in the white community? It's not in Indians. That's all those things now together as a family. He and I are talking about and going, did you know, we do something? Is that something, you know, different, the way we brought her up? It was so natural. So I don't think it was great conversation for us to have. And I say, no, this is, you know, how she is, and this is how she's born. We did everything right. She's coming to us and telling us. You know, she has the confidence. She's telling you that. That means she really loves you. She is able to have that confidence that we're going to support her. Right. So I think that is how days of our conversation went.
Beautiful.
But I don't want to be honest, right? Because I think it's like that for everybody. It's not like brush everything and say everything was fine. So this was our journey. So it took us a while. And I think what happened within a few months as we were going through it, COVID hit. And then a few months, both the daughters, they came home and stayed with us for over 6 months. So that was really a great bonding time for us, family, right? I mean, it just happened to be, and then everybody was working remote. We were all home. Every night we'd play games and talk about stuff. And then it's like, yeah, her being gay was just one component. I mean, she's just our daughter. We love her, you know? So everything kind of fell to the wayside. It was just our love and family togetherness. And so I think that was a great bonding time. So now fast forward, right? So everything is good. Wonderful daughter. Things are good. And we know the story. And then, of course, a few months later, there was a couple of years later. I mean, and then in the meantime, we had met Sarah, and wonderful, wonderful person, great choice, and we're happy. And then she's like, okay, I want to get married. So now it's the next stage, right? So where it's not our family, now it is, we got to tell the world, we got to tell our 85-year-old mother. And so I come from, I personally am of a kind of a very, I would say, what is the term, non-traditional person. So my family is used to my fiestiness. They just know me. And so it wasn't as much of a surprise to my family. They were like, okay, my mom was hard, but she's like, okay, this is, and she's very religious, and she's like, Avadam Parandirika, this is born for her. Okay, this is it, you know. So my mom was able to accept that. And once my mom accepted, my sister and brother, they were all fine. And but my husband comes from a very traditional family where society norms are held in good regard. So it was harder. So we were bracing ourselves on how to tell my mother-in-law. And we told her, and she was still grappling with it. And then she said, okay, I want to talk to Sindhu myself. So she herself talked with Sindhu because she's like, I want to know, I want to understand this. To her credit, they had a conversation for an hour. And she said, yes, I really want to get married. This is how it is going to be, Grandma. And my mother-in-law said, okay.
Amazing.
And after that hour's conversation, she gave a blessing and said, okay, Sindhu, you can get married.
Wow.
That's how it happened with my mother-in-law. And then, of course, you know, once that falls, my sister-in-laws, and then it's harder to tell their husbands, and, you know, because nobody else we are a very small community. So then we told everybody, and it took some time, but everybody rallied around, you know. It is everybody, my sisters-in-laws and their husbands, everybody came for the wedding, supported it. And they said, yeah, I mean, and actually it was interesting. I do have to digress just a tiny bit. So in terms of the wedding, we took Sindhu and Sarah, you know, to see primarily my mother-in-law, and also we figured, let us go before the wedding so they can enjoy the shopping, right? I mean, India is such wonderful, let us do, right?
Madras is the place to be, or Bangalore, or wherever you went.
Coimbatore, you will not.
Coimbatore is of course, heaven, shopping heaven.
So we went to all the stores, and here they are, both of them trying on the same saris and saying, I mean, I like some similar saris which should go well with each other.
Right.
Lehengas, both of them trying them on. And even when we bought the sari, he blessed the two of them and gave us the saris. You know, when you give the wedding sari, when you buy it from the store owner comes and, you know, prays to God and blesses it. Not one question asked by anybody, because I was kind of mentally prepared. Like, I was like, okay, what if these guys are going to say, what is happening? But to the credit, we must have gone to at least 12 different stores, boutiques and sari stores, lehenga boutiques. They tried clothes and they said, oh, this doesn't match together. These don't go together. Nobody said a word. Not
Wow.
one question asked by any of these store owners.
That's
I was blown away by that. This is Coimbatore, which is a lot like Mumbai, or, you know, your Mumbai or Delhi, right?
Oh no, Mumbai, Delhi, anywhere in India, they want to know everything, right? Like they're like, who are you? What are you? You know,
Exactly.
that's so great.
Yeah.
So great.
And
Maybe
we
they
also went to
know.
the photo studio, and then got their photos done together, because they had done a traditional dress. And then we went to the photo studio. Even there, he took them both their photos, no questions asked.
Wow.
I was blown away by people in India. So I think, so the lesson, the reason I'm saying this is, I think we as parents just get worried so much for our children, for ourselves, right? We worry too much. We don't trust people enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the best experience in India. I mean, we
Great.
were worried before, right? I was like, wasn't saying anything to anyone, but I'm like, oh my, what if somebody says something? What are we going to say?
Yeah.
Right? But nothing. So, and even our friends here in Boston, we told about the wedding. They had an engagement party the year before. Everybody was so supportive. Everybody understood. So I think society has come forward. People understand. I think we ourselves as parents have to digest that, right?
Yeah. I think we get concerned. I feel, right? Like the thing about us is that I don't think that as a parent, you yourself, look down or, are feeling awkward about it, but you're concerned that somebody might hurt your child, right? Like, I think that's, as an Indian parent, I think I see that a lot, right? You protect them not so much because you question them, but because you're like, oh my God, nobody dare, say anything to my child, because I love my child so much, right? I think that's a important point. I mean, I'll say that I got, married outside our community at that time. And, my parents were so supportive, it was, and this, I'm talking 35 years ago. At that time, it was a big deal, right? Like what I did, Tamil marrying Punjabi was a very big deal. So, but I think at the end of the day, that's the whole point about it. But I think that's the beautiful point about being an Indian family, is that I think that love that you have for your children, and it's very clear that the family also loves each other, right? And I think that's what seems to have come through. So I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for children who may be going through this, who maybe who have come out and realized that, and how do they approach their parents? What suggestions do you have for that?
Yeah, I think as children, so first let me talk to the parents and then the child side. So in terms of the parents, when your child is coming to you, right, it takes a lot of effort, right? Because they know it is not easy. And you have to understand it's not a choice, because who would want to go through the hardship? They know it's so difficult, right? Being a LGBTQ person in the Indian community is so hard. Right. So it's not a choice. And then if they're coming and telling you, you should first trust them that, yes, they are coming to me because they know for sure it's not a choice. If it was a choice, they would not, right? It's who they are. So I need to accept them and give them the space, and not go questioning them. Why are you doing this? It's my whole, and put all the pressure on them, right? I think that is the thing I would say to the parents, is that just, understand, support, be there for your child. And also when we tell others, right? And I think one important thing is to be proud of your child, right? Don't try to explain every time somebody asks your child gay. Try to explain to them, yes, it is, but blah, 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 right? So just go over, yes, they're gay. Therefore, so what? There's so many other things. She's also a chemical engineer. Yes, she's gay. She's a chemical engineer, right? And she does so many other things. She's doing her MBA, whatever, right? that's just one part of who she is. So just be understanding. And then I think for the child, you have to prepare your parents, right? So it's not like, I think it was, for me, it was good that I slowly knew, I learned about it, accepted it. So I think depending on who take one parent, educate them, try to make them understand why you chose to be, why you're telling them now, and how, and back it up with there's so much research material, right? Like I had all these friends I talked to, so they had talked to other friends. I think each child knows how to approach their parent. I would say trust them and keep them in the loop. And even if they initially struggle with it, it's okay, right? I mean, it's fine. Come back to them. Don't, just because they struggle, don't shun them and say, oh, my parents hate me, they're never going to talk to me again. They're going to come back, right? I mean, you need to keep that line of open communication. After the initial shock wears off, they're going to come back to you. But you have to be, since you brought this, I think as a child, you have to keep coming back to them and showing them you love them, you respect them. This is not something against them you're trying to do. It's who we are. And back it up with some material. I mean, there's just so much material. If they don't know, if they think their parents don't have enough knowledge, back it up. And, like, that's why I feel the reason I'm talking to you today is because I haven't seen any, like when I found out, there was no, this was almost 7-8 years ago, and there's not as much material out there, right? As much as it is now. So, but I do want to, if people, if we're going through this, if they have any questions, they can always reach out to me. How do I deal with this? I'm happy to talk to other parents, help them, support them, and be there for them, right? And help the community, because I think it's something we all as a community need to embrace it. And come together. You know how we say when we come to the US, our values are stuck in the year the year we come, right? If you come in the 90s, you're stuck in your 90s. India has progressed beyond that, but we forget to see that, right? Because my whole experience in Coimbatore blew me away. So India has progressed, right?
Exactly.
And we don't see that India. We just still think of like, oh, I came in the 90s. In 90s, India was like this. It's like that. No, I think people in India have progressed. So we in the US cannot be more conservative than the people in India because they've moved on.
Actually, when you see conservative, it's a very interesting comment, right? Like when I think about it, if our religion, if our culture which was actually open and diverse, I think now, I mean, I've been again looking about it, right? Like the law that, whatever what do you think, 377 or whatever it is, that says homosexuality is wrong, came during the British era based on Judeo-Christian principles, not on Hindu principles at all, So for us, if you look at our scriptures, I mean, it was so accepted, right? Like, I mean, we were an open society. And so what is conservative in the West, kind of went as conservative to India. But I think as a society, it's probably easy for us, to really accept, because our culture doesn't prevent it. In fact, when there was an issue for pride in Burlington, I'm a Purohita here, and I represented the Hindu community. I felt very comfortable, saying that I support the community because as a Purohita, I have the scriptural blessings to do that, I think. But yet there were many clergy in town, whose scriptures don't allow them to.
So
exactly. I think for us as Hindus, it's it's a no-brainer, right? So that's what
I think you bring up a great point, Ranjani. I think people don't understand that, right? They've forgotten that our scriptures allow it. They just think Hindu scriptures don't allow it, and there's a Western concept, which is what some of the the conservative people in India are trying to spin off as it's a Western concept. But I think you bring up a good point that it's actually not. And exactly, I mean, I think to your point, you see all the temples, right? You go to all the temples, and the Tamil temples, all the temples. It's really, there is no such concept of a heterosexual person only, right, in the Indian scriptures. So I think we just need to embrace our, I guess we can say, our authentic self, right? Embrace really what our scriptures told us. Exactly. Right? I think it's a great twist to say that we were always open. So now go back to being that whole open Hindu self, where you accept a person for who they are, right?
Right. I mean, the body is material, right, for us. At the end
Exactly.
of the day, it's the soul and it where it goes. So
Right.
sometimes we come as women, sometimes we come as men. We don't know what our previous birth was. And
Right.
as Shikhandi, he said, I am a man on the outside, but I feel like a woman on the inside. And Bhishma respected that, So I
That
think these are so true. So, but and I think any final words? I mean, I what I'm hearing is that the core Indian conservative value is that we love the family, we love our children. I'm hearing that, and so the rest is immaterial. But your words.
So also I wanted to say that, right after the wedding, we got a lot of comments and compliments from our friends and relatives. There were a couple of them which are, they had sent me by WhatsApp. So I'll just share them with you. Um, Here is one. She said, Sindhu is lucky to have you both as parents. It is obvious how close you all are as a family, and just everyone coming together. Each and every detail was so thoughtful and made this wedding not just an event, but very significant in many ways. I know you're a trailblazer and you've definitely kept to that title. Love, your friend, cousin, and admirer. And here is from another cousin who's a doctor, and she watched it via video. Myself and Appa watched the whole ceremony. It was lovely. I should convey my regards to you and your husband for accepting the children as they are and fulfilling their wishes. By doing so, both of you have set an example for many of us. My brother and sister in law had a very good time at the wedding. They were very happy to see Sindhu confident, bold, and beautiful. Appa was okay. It's just that he couldn't understand. He was asking, how do they decide to do this way? He thought it was a habit like alcohol or smoking. Then I explained to him it is biology. They can't help it. I told my dad, what if I told you to have a same sex partner? You could not be able to do that. In the same way, they can't have a partner in the opposite sex. That's what is normal for them. And I told him that I do transgender hormone treatment. So after that, my father was able to accept. So, so those are some of the feedback I got from our friends and family. And it was really good, right? Especially this feedback, this dialogue, which my friend had with her dad. That was an important dialogue, right? Where she's a physician, so she's can actually explain to her dad. And this is probably the first time she's telling her dad that she's doing a transgender treatment too, right? So now he kind of gets the full dimension of what is happening, and they're able to accept it. So I think it's that sometimes, right, spreading the word, everybody talking. Now he's going to take it back to others he knows, right? His dad, and her dad is again in his early 80s. So he's going to take it back and share the word, right? So I think this is how we spread the positive message,
Yeah.
right?
No,
And
no, absolutely. No, I think I sincerely, I mean, I'm so grateful to you, Geetha, for coming on, and being willing to talk about it. And that clearly shows that, you really understand it clearly and, have accepted it clearly as not as a freak thing or anything like that, but really understand that this is natural and want to your willingness to share, I think would help a lot of people who might be just going through that transition of accepting new things. And actually, what really always amazes me is that, as a Purohita, I conduct weddings. And, probably people of opposite sex don't value marriages as much as people who are of same sex. So maybe I'll just ask you that quick question. I mean, sometimes I hear from people who are, from the LGBT community that the parents say, hey, just live like that, but don't perform a marriage. Which is
right.
so opposite to what they will tell them about being, if they were straight, So what is the value of marriage, do you think, for Sindhu? Like, why was it so important for her to get married?
I think because she was very proud of herself too, right? And she knew that, we were proud, and she had met a partner. She wanted to spend the rest of her life with her partner. And it's the same rights as everybody wants to get married. And it is that everybody coming together, blessing them and being happy for them. And I think it was very important for Sindhu. And also, she's, as she is a leader in the LGBT community, she also wanted to set an example to others also, right? And I think this is an opportunity for her to stay by her words too, right? And then I think outside of all that, being LGBTQ or whatever, I think it is very important for her to get married. I mean, that's kind of drilled into our, right. And she found the right person to spend the rest of her life with. So she really wanted a marriage and a very traditional, everything done, the from the barat to the sangeet to the muhurtam, and then the Western ceremony, the reception.
Yeah.
She wanted it all. So,
I mean,
and
I
she
think that's yeah, marriage. I'm just saying that, there is a great value for marriage. I think it's just
yes,
that, people really, that is the commitment that they make in front of the public, where then they really commit to each other, right? And I think there is a, great value for that. Sometimes I get questions from children, what is the importance of it, So
right.
I think it's just a commitment in front of the public that, goes a long way to bond people together and, really support for each other for the rest of our life. So I think really proud of Sindhu, really happy for all of you, that first of all, that you found such a wonderful, daughter-in-law in Sarah, so that's
Yeah.
so nice that you did it. And it's very clear that the family loves everybody and that you have moved on into a very larger and more loving family together. So thank you, Geetha. And maybe I will later talk to your friend who does transgender therapy so that we can understand that part as well in the community.
Yeah,
So maybe I'll ask you for connections and I will
absolutely.
can
Absolutely. I think she's also very vocal. So I think that'll be really great to have that conversation so that, we all understand, right? Because there are certain things we don't understand. And then I think it's people like you, Ranjani, the Lokmani gives us, news about what is happening in the community. And so this is happening and this is something we need to all learn from. I think it's a great way to present those new ideas so people can understand and make it easy for them. So
exactly.
thank you. Yeah, definitely. I will connect you.
Fantastic. Well, Geetha, thank you. You are a trailblazer in so many ways. And of course, in your own entrepreneurship journey, it's not often that you find a female founder who has done so well with her company. So, congratulations on that. And some other time, maybe we'll talk about, your professional journey. But as a
Yes.
mother, you certainly are one of the best, I can tell. So God bless you and God bless Sindhu. And look forward to keeping in touch. And so is it okay if we put if somebody contacts me that I send them, you send you an email for you
Yes,
to,
absolutely.
okay,
Yes.
I will do that. And if there are resources that you can share, that'll be great. So thank you for that offer, Geetha. And, look forward to seeing the next phase of your happy life. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.